10 powerful psychology facts about life nobody ever taught you. What if everything you were taught about life, about success, about happiness, about the way your mind works, was only half the story? What if there are powerful psychological truths sitting inside peer-reviewed research right now that could completely rewire the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you move through the world, and nobody ever told you about them? Today that changes. We are diving deep into 10 powerful psychology facts about life that nobody ever taught you, every single one backed by real science from the world's most respected experts and institutions. Stay until fact number 10. It might be the most important thing you hear all year. Let's go.
Here is a truth that explains more about your decisions than almost anything else in psychology. Dr. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize-winning psychologist and author of Thinking Fast and Slow, alongside his research partner Dr. Amos Tversky, developed one of the most influential theories in the history of behavioral science, prospect theory. Their research proved with stunning clarity that the pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. Losing $100 feels twice as bad as winning $100 feels good. Losing a friend hurts twice as much as gaining a new one feels rewarding. This is called loss aversion, and it silently governs nearly every decision you make in life. It explains why you stay in jobs that make you miserable, because leaving feels like loss. Why you hold on to relationships that drain you, because ending them feels like losing something. Why you never start the business, never make the move, never take the leap, because your brain is more focused on what could go wrong than what could go brilliantly right. Kahneman's research published in the Journal of Economic Perspectives found that loss aversion affects not just financial decisions but every domain of human life, relationships, career choices, health behaviors, and personal growth. The most powerful application of this knowledge? Reframe every decision in your life from what you might lose to what you are already losing by staying still. Because according to Kahneman, inaction is not safety. It is just a different kind of loss your brain has learned to make peace with. Bottom line, your brain is lying to you every time it tells you that staying still is safe. The cost of not acting is just as real as the cost of acting. Science just proved your brain refuses to see it that way. Fact number 2, you have a second brain, and it controls more than you think. You have been making decisions your whole life thinking they came from your brain. Science says otherwise. Dr. Michael Gershon, a neuroscientist at Columbia University and author of The Second Brain, discovered that your gut contains over 100 million neurons, more than either the spinal cord or the peripheral nervous system. This complex network of nerve cells lining your digestive tract is called the enteric nervous system, and researchers now refer to it as your second brain. Here is where it gets extraordinary. Your gut does not just digest food. It produces and houses approximately 95% of your body's serotonin, the primary neurotransmitter responsible for mood regulation, emotional stability, and feelings of well-being. More serotonin lives in your gut than in your brain. Research published in the Journal of Neuroscience confirms that the gut and brain communicate constantly through the vagus nerve, a direct biological highway running between your second brain and your primary one. And critically, more signals travel from the gut UP to the brain than from the brain down to the gut. This means that gut feeling you dismiss as irrational? That instinct you talk yourself out of? That physical sensation in your stomach when something feels wrong? That is your second brain sending you data. Real, neurological, scientifically measurable data. Bottom line. The next time your gut tells you something your mind is trying to rationalize away, stop. Science says your gut is not being emotional. It is being intelligent. Fact number 3, your mind cannot distinguish between vivid imagination and reality. Proven by Dr. Alvaro Pascual-Leone, Harvard Medical School and Harvard University. This fact has the power to completely transform how you prepare for everything in your life. Dr. Alvaro Pascual-Leone of Harvard Medical School conducted a landmark experiment that divided participants into 3 groups. The first group physically practiced a sequence of piano notes for 5 days. The second group only mentally rehearsed the same sequence, never touching a piano. The third group did nothing. Brain scans revealed something extraordinary. The group that physically practiced showed measurable changes in their motor cortex, the region of the brain controlling finger movement. But the group that only mentally practiced showed virtually identical brain changes, without ever touching an instrument. Your brain physically cannot tell the difference between something you vividly imagined and something you actually did. This finding, published in the Journal of Neurophysiology, revolutionized sports psychology, performance coaching, and therapeutic practice worldwide. It is why elite athletes from Michael Jordan to Serena Williams have credited mental visualization as a core component of their training. The practical application of this is staggering. Every time you vividly imagine yourself failing, your brain treats it as a real failure and builds neural pathways around it. Every time you vividly imagine yourself succeeding, your brain begins physically building the neurological infrastructure for that success. Bottom line, your imagination is not escapism. It is practice. Use it deliberately and science says your brain will build the exact architecture needed to turn what you visualize into what you live. Fact number 4, most of your decisions are made before you are consciously aware of them. You believe you are in control of your decisions. Neuroscience has something uncomfortable to tell you. Dr. Benjamin Libet of the University of California, San Francisco conducted one of the most debated and replicated experiments in neuroscience history. Using EEG technology to monitor brain activity, Libet discovered that the brain begins preparing to execute a decision up to 10 seconds before the person becomes consciously aware they have decided anything. Your brain makes the move. Then it tells you about it. And your conscious mind, believing it is in charge, simply takes credit. Dr. John Barr of Yale University expanded on this through decades of research into unconscious cognition, proving that the vast majority of human behavior is driven by automatic mental processes operating completely below conscious awareness. His research published in the American Psychologist Journal found that up to 95% of daily behavior is governed by unconscious patterns, habits, and mental shortcuts rather than deliberate conscious choice. What does this mean for your life? It means that your habits are your decisions. The unconscious patterns you have built through repetition are running your life on autopilot, while your conscious mind tells itself a story about being in control. The most empowering application of this research is this: you cannot think your way to a better life. You have to behave your way there. Build better unconscious habits and your decisions will change automatically, because your decisions were never really conscious to begin with. Bottom line, you are not as in control as you think. But here is the good news: if you design your habits deliberately, science says your unconscious mind will make better decisions for you automatically. Fact number 5, helping others is the fastest scientifically proven path to personal happiness. In a world obsessed with self-optimization and personal achievement, science discovered something beautifully counterintuitive about happiness. Dr. Sonia Lyubomirsky, one of the world's leading researchers on the science of happiness at the University of California, Riverside, conducted a landmark study where participants were instructed to perform 5 random acts of kindness per week over a 10-week period. The results were transformative. Participants who performed acts of kindness showed a 41% increase in self-reported happiness, significantly outperforming control groups who focused on personal pleasure or achievement activities during the same period. But here is the neuroscience behind why. When you help someone, your brain releases a powerful cocktail of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin simultaneously, a neurochemical combination researchers at Emory University nicknamed the helper's high. Brain imaging studies confirmed that the act of giving activates the same reward centers in the brain as receiving, and in many cases activates them more powerfully. The Harvard study of adult development, spanning 85 years and considered the most comprehensive study on human happiness ever conducted, reached a conclusion that cut through every theory about success and fulfillment with surgical precision: the quality of your relationships and your contribution to others are the greatest predictors of a long, healthy, and happy life. Not wealth. Not achievement. Not status. Connection and contribution. Bottom line, the fastest path to your own happiness is not found by looking inward. Science proves it is found the moment you genuinely focus outward, on lifting someone else up. Fact number 6, your brain physically shrinks under chronic stress. Proven by Dr. Bruce McEwen, Rockefeller University and the American Journal of Psychiatry. This is the psychology fact that most people wish someone had told them before they spent years living in survival mode. Dr. Bruce McEwen, a pioneering neuroendocrinologist at Rockefeller University, spent decades studying the effects of chronic stress on the human brain. His findings published in the American Journal of Psychiatry revealed something that fundamentally changed how the medical community understands mental health. Chronic stress physically shrinks the prefrontal cortex, the region of your brain responsible for decision-making, rational thought, emotional regulation, and long-term planning. At the same time, chronic stress enlarges the amygdala, the brain's fear and threat detection center, making it hyperactive and increasingly difficult to calm. In plain terms, prolonged stress literally makes you worse at thinking clearly, managing emotions, and making good decisions, while simultaneously making you more reactive, more fearful, and more prone to seeing threats everywhere. Research from Yale University further confirmed that chronic stress reduces the density of gray matter in the brain, the tissue responsible for processing information, muscle control, sensory perception, and self-control. The most critical finding, however, came from Dr. McEwen's own follow-up research, which proved something deeply hopeful: these changes are largely reversible. With consistent stress reduction practices, mindfulness, quality sleep, exercise, and genuine social connection, the brain demonstrates remarkable neuroplasticity, rebuilding and strengthening the very structures that chronic stress had diminished. Bottom line, stress is not just an emotion. It is a physical force reshaping your brain. Fact number 7, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You have probably heard this as a motivational quote. But most people have no idea that it is rooted in hard science, and the research behind it is more powerful than the quote itself. Dr. Nicholas Christakis of Harvard University and Dr. James Fowler of UC San Diego conducted a groundbreaking 32-year study tracking the social networks of over 12,000 people, analyzing how behaviors, emotions, and even physical health spread through social connections like a contagion. Their findings, published in the British Medical Journal, were staggering. Happiness spreads through social networks up to 3 degrees of separation, meaning your friend's friend's friend can measurably influence your emotional state without ever meeting you. But the effect was strongest, overwhelmingly so, among your closest and most frequent contacts. The study found that having a happy close friend increases your probability of being happy by 15%. Having an unhappy close friend decreases it by a comparable margin. But most remarkably, obesity, smoking habits, loneliness, generosity, and even divorce were all shown to spread through social networks with measurable statistical significance. You are not just influenced by the people around you. You are neurologically shaped by them. Their habits become your habits. Their beliefs become your beliefs. Their emotional baseline gradually becomes yours, through a process of unconscious social mirroring that operates completely below your awareness. Bottom line, choosing who you spend your time with is not a social preference. According to 32 years of Harvard research, it is one of the most consequential health and life decisions you will ever make. Fact number 8, gratitude physically rewires your brain for happiness. Proven by Dr. Robert Emmons, UC Davis, and Dr. Martin Seligman, University of Pennsylvania. Gratitude has been dismissed as soft self-help advice for decades. Then neuroscience got involved, and everything changed. Dr. Robert Emmons of UC Davis, the world's leading scientific authority on gratitude, conducted a series of landmark studies where participants who wrote down 3 to 5 things they were grateful for each week reported 25% higher life satisfaction, exercised more regularly, had fewer physical health complaints, and felt more optimistic about the upcoming week compared to control groups. But Dr. Martin Seligman of the University of Pennsylvania, widely regarded as the founder of positive psychology, took the research further. In his landmark, 3 Good Things study, participants who wrote down 3 good things that happened each day and their causes showed measurable reductions in depression symptoms that persisted for 6 months after the study ended, from a single 3-week gratitude intervention. The neuroscience behind why is equally powerful. Brain imaging studies from the University of Southern California found that practicing gratitude consistently activates the medial prefrontal cortex, the brain region associated with learning, reward processing, and interpersonal bonding. Over time, this activation becomes easier and more automatic, literally rewiring your brain's default processing toward positive pattern recognition. In other words, gratitude is not just a feeling. It is a neurological training program that gradually shifts your brain's baseline from threat detection to opportunity recognition. Bottom line, gratitude is not positivity for its own sake. It is a scientifically proven neurological intervention that physically rebuilds your brain for greater happiness, starting from the very first practice. Fact number 9, the stories you tell yourself become the life you live. Proven by Dr. Dan McAdams, Northwestern University, and Dr. James Pennebaker, University of Texas. Of all the psychology facts in this video, this one might be the one with the most direct and immediate power to change your life starting today. Dr. Dan McAdams, a personality psychologist at Northwestern University, pioneered the field of narrative identity theory, which proposes that human beings do not just have experiences, they construct stories about their experiences. And those stories, the ones we tell ourselves about who we are, why things happen to us, and what our lives mean, become the psychological lens through which we interpret every new experience going forward. His research found that people who frame their life story as a redemption narrative, where hardship leads to growth, where difficulty becomes a source of strength, demonstrate measurably higher levels of psychological well-being, purpose, and resilience than those who frame their story as a contamination narrative, where good things inevitably turn bad. Dr. James Pennebaker of the University of Texas found in parallel research that the act of rewriting your personal narrative through expressive writing produces measurable improvements in immune function, mental health, and even long-term career outcomes, with participants showing these benefits up to 2 years after a single writing intervention. Your internal story is not a passive reflection of your life. It is an active architect of it. The narrative you tell yourself about your past shapes what you believe you deserve in your present, and what you believe is possible in your future. Bottom line, you cannot always control what happens to you. But science proves you have complete power over the story you tell about it, and that story determines everything that comes next. Fact number 10, human connection is as vital to survival as food and water. Proven by Dr. Julianne Holt-Lunstad, Brigham Young University, and Matthew Lieberman, UCLA. We saved the most important for last. And this one is not just a psychology fact. It is a biological imperative, and the science behind it will change the way you treat every relationship in your life from this moment forward. Dr. Julianne Holt-Lunstad of Brigham Young University conducted a meta-analysis of 148 studies involving over 300,000 participants, making it one of the largest analyses of social relationship data ever compiled. Her findings, published in the PLOS Medicine Journal, delivered a conclusion that shook the medical community. Social isolation and loneliness increase the risk of premature death by 26% to 29%, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day and exceeding the mortality risk of obesity and physical inactivity. Human connection is not a luxury. It is not an emotional need that civilization has outgrown. It is a biological survival requirement hardwired into every system of your body. Matthew Lieberman of UCLA, author of Social, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Connect, used brain imaging research to demonstrate that social pain and social pleasure activate the same brain regions as physical pain and physical pleasure. Your brain treats being excluded with the same neurological urgency as being physically injured, because for most of human evolutionary history social exclusion meant death. The Harvard study of adult development, after 85 years of research, concluded with absolute certainty, the people who maintain warm, close, genuine human connections live longer, get sick less often, recover faster from illness, experience less cognitive decline with age, and report dramatically higher levels of happiness and meaning than those who do not. Not money. Not success. Not achievement. People. Connection. Love.